Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, to our monthly race finale, the end of fantastic action. And this is going to be the culmination of our qualifiers. It's the 27th of November 2022. Joining me, Matt Payne, is Emma Martin. Emma, welcome to the studio once again. Good to be back together as a team for what is going to be an exciting finals for November.
Yes, indeed, Matt, it is. And lovely to be here with you today because I am really looking forward to today's November final. We are heading with the men out to Australia to the Wollongong route. This is the same route as we used in the October final, and it created some amazing racing. So, 45 kilometres of course length for the men today, 700 metres of climbing, and 3 Category 4 climbs today on the course. Now, the stats on the map in front of you are a little bit deceptive because it looks as though those Category 4 climbs, 2.4 kilometres in length, 4.5% average gradient, doesn't sound a lot, but those gradients will kick to around 15%. And the other thing to watch out for on this course today is if you add the amount of climb for those 3 Category 4 climbs, that's not even half the climb on this course. This course is relentless. The gradient is constantly changing, as indeed they do the course today. So, really looking forward to a really hard race today, Matt.
Yep, definitely. And one of the things on those gradients, Emma, is on the climbs, on our category 4 climbs, that includes our descents, and that is where the average changes. Now, category 1 competitors racing here today: the Danish Pavlova team, the Italian Gelato squad, next PB Insured, and the Sticky Bun Club. Welcome to Sticky Bun Club, new team here today. Pavlova's, of course, very, very strong. Italian Gelato, but all of the teams fielding big riders and some interesting team drafts going across.
Yeah, so 33 riders in our Category 1 race today who have qualified for the final, and 7 teams in total. So it should be a really strong team competition.
So the UAE clan team will be looking to impress once again to dominate on the territory. And the Yorkshire Pudding Express are back with the Belgian Waffles squad. And the Yorkshire Pudding Express drafted in a new rider as well.
They have indeed actually a new Scandinavian rider joining the squad today. So that's going to be really interesting. Justus Addy. So welcome to him joining the Yorkshire Pudding Express with Phil Graves and Mitch Ferry, who are our regulars on that squad.
Really interesting to see who's going to take that out. Don't forget, of course, we have 4 race categories. Category 1 is the top tier, second tier, category 2, then 3, then 4. Our category 2 teams in the green jerseys: the Chasers, Cycle Mind, Draft, and Horseman. Anyone in particular there stand out for you there, Emma?
Well, the Horsemen did indeed win in the October final, so I'm expecting them to be very strong today. But I'm also expecting that some of the other teams in this category really come into play. So 33 riders in this category, Matt, with 8 teams. So again, a really strong racing expected here.
Definitely, and got to remember, of all these teams, they have all been moving and shuffling their riders around. So let's see who is going to take away those prizes. Our category 3 teams very strong. Our category 4 as well. So the second of our category 2 sets, it's Hubbers, the Mischiefs, UAE Falcons, and X Pro rounding out those category 2 teams. Our category 3 teams, again, lots more riders. Emma, how many teams have we got in our category 3?
So, category 3 today, 31 riders qualified on the start sheets and 8 teams.
And the UAE Road Warriors, Team Strikers, and the Veloces team in category number 3. We're also, of course, going to have the Global Gingerbread, Dango Reality, Investing Columbia, Psychopath, and the Battlers in category 4, also packed. Packed
It,
field, Emma.
it is indeed, and let's just remember this is the first time we've had a Category 4 team race and final competition. 12 riders, 4 teams today.
CM team, global team, mixed breed in there as well. We're down on our start line, and here we go. The finals are underway here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. We're in with Jakob Bjorklund watching this kick out from the line here in Wollongong. Our riders away 45 kilometres separates them from the big prize of money in our individual race categories and in our teams.
Yeah, so This course today is a flat start, but very, very shortly the climbing will come.
So jumping in with Stefan van Eest in there. So just watching as we flick through here. Big pack riding away, Emma. This start is critical, isn't it? It's about getting the pace nailed and get up to the front. If you don't get that kick, you've got to put in extra effort to join this leading pack. But the start of this course, pretty much the flattest thing on the course.
It is indeed. The start is pretty much the flattest thing on this course. So there is a short section of start flat before we start on the climbing and the rolling terrain. The first main climb, the first category 4 climb, will not come until 9.5 kilometers into this race. But this start is, as you say, Matt, is really important. Actually making the selection and moving towards the front of the pack is absolutely key, because if or when the pack starts to split and the front group is formed, the longer you can stay in that large group, the most benefit you can use of that draft. And that is absolutely important for positioning and getting a good race today.
So here we go. We're on our flat section. We go around the left-hand bend. We take the right-hand sharper bend, and then it starts to rise. The gradient increases a little bit, but then there's a big kicker to go up onto the plateau and then straight over the other side. Now, this section over the top is where it's really critical to push. This is decider number one. We're talking about that split. You can see on the map that there's already gaps, but coming up, you can see in the distance here, just to the right of our rider's data, the hill coming in. We're at 4% now as we climb up on the edge here, up onto the cliff tops. And at 7%, we're seeing that group pressure. And look at it getting stretched out here.
Yeah, and look at those yellow jersey riders where they were sort of been positioned 20 to 30 in that pack, really start to have to push to make that selection at the front. And those yellow jerseys, we saw them start to surge through that field and through that pack, because they don't want to get caught napping today, because there are some really class riders in today's field.
Well, speaking of class riders, we're on Jason Osborne at the moment, Continental Pro rider, up against the might of the UAE clan team, led by their road captain, who they're going to be hoping is on form, Mr. X100. He really is their main leader. Now, we were talking about staying in with this pack. Interesting to see that Hassan Al-Ramethri has made the initial selection. Now, Hassan, for those of you who have been watching regularly, will know Hassan has a tendency to start slower and to accelerate. Some really great riders do that, people like Nick Craig, etc. But what he does is he gets quicker than has to catch. By starting in with this leading group, that has given him a big advantage. So he is on the right hand side of your screen. He's a rider we're featuring on the right hand side. But as you can see, we're about to go dipping over the edge here, and Hassan has to stay in this group. He can't afford to let little gaps go. You drop out of the draft. We've just seen him have to push out over 600 watts in a kick to get back on. Getting the timing right to stay in this group, really key.
Yeah, it is absolutely key. And for Arametri, it's so important, because the other green jerseys in that pack today are really strong. We've got Gakes, we've got Cadiz, we've got Giuliano, we've got Maglio, Angarita, we've got Tysalius, we've got Spratt, Smithson is in there as well today. These are absolutely class category 2 riders, and Arametri does not want to be chasing, even though we know he is a master of winding it up through the race field.
He is indeed. Let's see whether or not he needs to do that now. Left-hand side of your screen, Mr. X100, the road captain for that UAE clan team, just sitting in there. And we talk about masters of winding up. He's a real master of using the draft. He spent so much time. I remember back in March and April riding with Mr. X100 on the platform. And even in those early days, it was really interesting to watch him. He knew how it rode. He knew how to get the pace right and how to use that draft to his advantage.
Yeah, and he's also a master of momentum, Matt. You know, riders who ride on this platform very regularly will know that momentum is so important. You don't need to be the fastest rider. You don't need to be the one with the most power. What you do need to be is the one who understands the mechanics and the techniques of riding on MyWhoosh and how to use that to your benefit.
Definitely. Well, you can see that we have a mix still of all four categories in this leading group. We have category one in yellow, category two in green, category three in the blue, and category four in the red. Now, in terms of winners at the end of the October month, our top team was the Danish Pavlova squad. They are the team to beat of the last six finals. They've been first five times. They were second last time out, and it's going to be interesting to see if that Pavlova squad are able to hold on. Knudsen, Jones, Osborne, and Vink. Remember, Vink, of course, turning pro because of his performances on the esports platform.
Yeah, so last time the member on this course, Matt, as we said earlier, was indeed the October finals. 1 hour and 8 minutes was the winning time that day, and Popovic took it from Osborne and Knudsen, but there was 5 seconds in that 1, 2, 3, and for such a hard and relentless course, 5 seconds between that 1, 2, 3. That was just amazing racing.
It was indeed. Now, just watching these riders coming through at the moment, and one of the things to notice is the category two riders are in here. Now, last time in our last finals, it was the Horsemen who took the win in category two. In category three, it was a global team. We will see our very first team winners in category four this time round, because there are prizes, of course, not just for individuals, but for those team prizes. Huge prize fund up for grabs, and it's key to staying as long as possible. We're just going over the next little rise. We're into the descent here. It's a 4% descent, and this descent is key. We're in with Cadiz at the moment, but you can see I just saw Carl Tyselius in this group. I think Pino's in here, Safrazad, Martins, Knudsen, Mayer, Jones, Acker. A real mix of category two and category one riders, but those 3 and 4 categories just starting to be distanced as they push over the top, having to chase back on. They've just made contact in time for this next kicker, which is 7%.
Yeah, and you can see those yellow jersey category one riders at the back of that group need to start watching and pushing forward and getting a good position, because currently there's over 30 riders in that lead pack at the moment, and you don't want to be missing out if the front put a bit of a push in and a bit of power down on those pedals.
No, definitely not. So we're just in watching Mr. X100 on the left of your screen, right hand side. You can see some of those riders who've been distanced. They're only about 300 to 400 meters behind the leaders. But interestingly, Patrick Massini on that right hand side of your screen just being distanced, and the gaps have indeed opened up to our race leaders. So here we go. And with the race lead, Mr. X100 in here, we're at 5.4K. So that means that we are just coming in to that steadily bumpy, increasing climb at the moment. And I think Emma has just been working out the numbers of riders in this pack. What's your guess, Emma?
I'm not guessing. We've got 36 riders in this lead group, and we've got a 6-second gap now back to the chasers. In fact, that top right hand corner of your screen, there is a small video box that shows you the course with that lead group on it, and it's a really good viewing platform to see where the riders get dropped back. Look there, indeed, you can see the stretch and the blob, as the riders actually move through this. And that gives us a really good indication of when people are pushing on at the front and when people are starting to struggle, as we can start to see now.
So we're on the climb. The stretch has come. It is starting to string out, just like you would see on the road or on the velodrome. If the group eases off, or in fact on pretty much any discipline, the group will come together. As the push goes, it starts to open out, it gets longer, it gets a thinner line. You can see 3 riders on the front pushing on here: Michael Vink, Jason Osborne, and Phil Graves at the moment. The 3 riders with a probably 20-meter lead at the moment on the chasing pack, who are just about to close them down. Here they come. The chase down led by Pablo Popovic and Syed Safrazad. Syed Safrazad coming, of course, with Popovic from that UAE clan team. They clearly mean business, and they're not going to let anybody go. This is a dangerous course to get clear on. If somebody goes clear, you're going to be in trouble. Now, just saw Bushmuller in here. Bushmuller, of course, one of the riders on the new Sticky Bun Club. Sounds like my kind of team, that. So Osborne chasing at the moment. We're not going to disintegrate into cake talk, I promise you. As we come through our finals, always way too excited for that as we come up this climb. Still 3%. Remember, we are steadily rising as we come through the course until we drop down into that last section. So there's a little bit of a descent down into the climb. The first of our category 4 climbs, 3 of those on the way through, basically 3 times at the same climb, finishing at the very top, which makes things very interesting indeed for the riders with that finish. But at the moment, this group holding together well, Emma, and looks to me like all of the key favourites in there. Good to see Tom Gates in there once again. Gates, of course, a master of a solo breakaway. He's on the left-hand side of your screen, right-hand side. That's Heath Exley. Here we go. In with Tom.
Yep.
So Tom's stats, 168 beats per minute, 87 revs per minute. Nice pedal cadence there. Currently doing 74 kilometers an hour. Absolutely rocketing down in that group. And once you're in a group, the bigger the group, the faster it will move on those descents.
Yeah, and Gake's in there as a Category 2 rider. We've got his key competition in there as well, because I've seen Spratt in there, Maglio's in there, Angarita is in there, Tisalius is in there. Hassan Al-Ramethri has not made the selection. He's just hanging off the back there, and yet again having to push on. And, this might cause problems for Al-Ramethri later in the race if he's burnt all these matches trying to hang on to this front group for as long as possible. But as we know, recovery is key, and understanding where on courses to get micro recovery is absolutely what these riders need to understand.
Yeah, well, Hassan Al-Ramethri normally used to sitting at his own pace for the start of the race, so not responsive, not having to respond to other people's attacks, not having to kick and respond and then recover. Generally sits at his own pace and does the first part of the race at his pace, and that suits the certain riders that are good at sitting in one pace. The other riders who can jump up and down and yo-yo backwards and forwards. Now, Gates went on a long solo breakaway, and interestingly, in category 2, he has been 6th in every single qualifier, 1, 2, and 3 throughout November. Missing in action during October in the top 10. In fact, his best performance was in the August finals, and I think he was 2nd there.
Yeah, and the reason he was missing in October, because we have categories that are quite fluid, and depending upon your performance, you move up and down and through the categories. And Gakes was promoted to Category 1 throughout the whole of October and raced Category 1 for October, and has now been re-evaluated and moved back to Category 2. Because we've seen more riders start to come into Category 1 of that top end level. So the fluidity of these categories is actually a really interesting thing to see, and it's great to see Gates back in the mix and back in the competitive Category 2 field, because he really is a proponent of mixing up the racing and being a brave and bold rider. And I think, that's what we really need on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club.
It is indeed Marvin Angarita, another rider who's really made himself at home in Category 2. Remember, our riders moving up and down those categories aren't just based on an FTP or some one single performance metric. It's based on multiple metrics to give us the categories that give great racing, that give everybody a fantastic race. Let's face it, that's what we all want. We want to be racing. We want to have a race where we're all competitive, racing against our peers in a fair platform. And that's exactly what we getting, and that's what we're seeing now. Just taking a look at Willem Bushmuller on the left-hand screen here. Cristiano Kepup. On the right hand side, Kenup, one of our regulars in Category 2 and a regular racer. He's been here pretty much since we've been broadcasting, and I've got to say, it's great to see that consistent riding from Kenup. He's a rider who's always in the mix. He's regularly pushing the limits as he goes through, and another rider who I think has really supported the platform from day one, and it shows he's a very, very smooth rider.
Yeah, and this lead group, we've still got a little bit of rolling around and some moving through, but this group are now on the foothills of this climb. And let's just talk for a second, Matt, about this climb. This climb is called Mount Pleasant. It is not pleasant at all. It is actually 2 climbs within one Category 4 climb. So the riders will go up the steep sections here. This is the first part of the climb. This goes up to 10% in gradient. They will drop down over the other side before they kick up to the main part of Mount Pleasant, which is the longest segment of climb and the steeper segment of climb that will top 15%. So Mount Pleasant by name, not Mount Pleasant by nature.
Yeah, Mount Unpleasant as when you're riding it or racing it, that's for sure. But it is one of those climbs that if you're on form, because and you know the platform, you know how this climb rides, you can really use it to your advantage. Line of adjusting at the moment on that 10% gradient, left hand side of your screen. You see the chaser's right hand side, currently about 800 meters behind. But the race leaders at the moment, that group starting to fracture. This is a chase with Hamid Kamze at the moment. And this chasing group have got riders up in front of them in a multitude of groups. But we are in with one of our category 4 riders. Great to see this real mix of riders. And if you look at the watts per kilo, the power and the heart rate, these riders all working to their limit on the way through.
Yeah, and great to see our category 4 riders in there. Kamesh is in there, Mendoza is in there. I've seen Ruiz in there as well. You know, this is the first finale where we've had category 4, this first November of category 4, and it's going to be great to see who positions and who rides strongly. But at the moment, it's looking like a really competitive category 4 race today.
So the leaders in category 1, going from one end to the other, is on the left-hand side of your screen. We're on the descent. We take this sharp left-hand turn, and immediately we start climbing. This is still all part of the first category 4 climb of the day, as you would find on everything from continental tours right the way through to individual day races, 1-day races. That climbs can contain a descent, and that is what happens on this. It is a particularly nasty one because you climb up, you descend almost 2/3 of your initial descent, and you can see that gradient 17.7% I saw on there, and that is going to hurt. I don't
And
care how good you are.
And look what it's done to that top group of 36 riders who came into the bottom of this category 4 climb together. They are all over the road, and that shot shows you down to Mr. X100. This lead group now is down to about 15 riders. Fawcett just trying to get onto the back of that group, and Graves, they're missing out. They're 2 seconds back down the road. They're going to have to push to make sure they stay in contention because it's looking like that front group are creating a little bit of daylight, and those groups are going to form on this climb.
And they're on the way up towards the summit. And when we get to the summit, being in contact is key because we go up, we drop down, we got a little kick, and then we descend even more. So what will happen is any little thin piece of time in between, that thin end of the wedge, will be driven home, and it will fracture and it will widen massively at the moment. And then you are going to see those gaps open. They might be 2 meters at the top of the climb. By the base of the climb, they could be nearly 200 meters. It could even be nearly 2K long. And that is just because if you can take a pack like we've got on the front at the moment going over the top, that is going to make a difference.
Okay, so we've got a split screen here at the moment, Matt, and we're in with our Methri. But in with our Methri, I'm looking at that thinking Mitch Ferry has not made the cut for this front group.
And that's really key for the Yorkshire Pudding Express team, who need to get him into that group. Now, that leading pack of riders, Emma, have you got a rough number of who's made the cut?
I think we're looking at about 16 riders, Matt. So sub 20 riders from that group have made that cut. And we are going to go back now because I think there is starting to gain another kick from Knudsen with Vijasin and Martins riding strongly at the front here and continuing to push on and taking the benefit of that 100-meter gap they've now got back to this group 2 on the road.
And remember, they're going to go over the top. It's starting to level. We're in with Mr. X100 as we go up over the top here. As this levels, they now need to keep winding. You can see that in this group. Panitsa really hammers over the top with Safrazad. They are going to push here because what they will find, taking this momentum down into the dip, they are traveling at speeds of nearly 70 kilometers an hour. As the chasers come up to the summit, they're doing 20 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, so this front group now of around 16 riders, 17 riders back to Knudsen, and Knudsen and Safrasad are going to have to push on here to make sure that that gap doesn't increase, because they do not want to let that front group go. These two riders are strong riders and they just need to work together to close that small gap. Otherwise, this group are going to ride away from two riders who we know have the capability to win.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see this is a critical moment in the racing here. Big pack on the front, working hard. They are splitting out riders off the back. Safrazad having to work to get back in. He'll want to be there for the team. They're about to make that junction. You can see the effort that it's taking to go back into the group. They're virtually sprinting to get back on. That is due to the volume of riders in the front group. Two riders, once you're off the back, you are in trouble. You've got to get back in. A decisive moment answered by Safrazad on the way through, defending that team, wanting to be in that team mix. However, we have to remember, if you do that, that is energy. That was a moment where you could rest on the descent, wiped out. You've had to sprint on. It's not just that you've lost out with having to expend more energy. You've also lost a chance to recover.
Yeah, so we're seeing a really good shot here of the chase group with our Methri. It's also the front end of the Category 2 race, and our Methri is pushing on because he really wants to stay with this. But we've got some really class Category 1 riders in that group. Panizza has gone from the front of the first group to into this second group. Simmons is in here, Pinto is in here, Fawcett is in here. So there's also Van. Oh, I'm trying to look at this, but actually, yep. So there we go. So 17 riders in that front group. And this is the chase group containing the front end of the Category 2 race.
That is on the right-hand side of your screen. Left-hand side of your screen, this is the race leaders. Jason Osborne pushing up to the front side. Safrazad, Mike Goldnudsen, Pablo Popovic, Stefan Van Est, yet again up in the mix. Phil Graves is in here. So remember, of course, we've got the team competitions. Mitch Ferry is chasing the second group in the on the road. He's in 24th position here, and the Yorkshire Pudding Express have just stayed Phil Grace and Mitch Ferry. They would have wanted to be in the mix for the team competition. They've been on the podium in May, June, July, in September. They were fourth in August and October. So they've not been out of the prize money. Is today the first day that that happens to them in a final? Because remember, of course, we have money on the team competition as well as money in the individual competition.
Yeah, well, as we've said before, Matt, we don't know what these riders' training plans are, whether they're on a race program or whether they are indeed on a rest period. And anything can take place. And some riders that we would expect to be at the front, sometimes, depending upon what else is going on in their program, changes that dynamic.
Well, Mr. X100 clearly on a bit of a mission to keep the pace hot here. Closed down by Michael Vick, goes over the top at 10 watts per kilo. He knows this spiral that takes us back up and over the road we've just gone on is one where you can put an attack in. Vink goes down. He's up at 10 watts per kilo. Osborne is answering at 10.2. Vujasin is at 11 watts per kilo just then. But look at this. Vujasin eases off. He knows that they are coming back, but he has fractured the group here, Vink. There are riders off the back. This group of 16, they're no longer 16 riders. They're in fives and sixes. And even if you don't get clear, what you're doing is you're doing damage to those riders' legs that you are with because they are having to chase. You're setting the pace. You are commanding how much gas is on there, how much fuel you put on the fire. You're the one who's in the driving seat, and everybody else is playing catch up.
Yeah, Matt, this front 17 are all of them class riders. All of them could take the victory today. And I think if I was Mr. X100, I would be thinking about that as well, because taking a world-class field of 17 riders into that final climb today, you really don't want to do that. And take a look at that. Michael Vink is doing exactly the same. We are currently at 0.3% gradient at the moment. We are on the flatlands and Vink is pushing on because this is a big world-class esports MyWhoosh group and pushed on. There's a little bit of daylight there now. Back to that group, 4 seconds. And they need not to sit on their laurels, Matt, because we have seen riders time trial away from the group and the group never bring them back.
And the master of that is Michael Vink. Michael Vink takes solo victories. He's been closed down on that final climb before now. I think, if anything, he's gone earlier this time round than I think I've seen him go on this course in all of the racing. So we have completed one full lap from the start line back in and through again. The chasing group, right-hand side of your screen. The race leader, left-hand side of your screen. And that gap is going out. It's at 7 seconds now. Remember, there are two more ascents of the climb to come. So we have one full lap to the start line and then a run around up to the top of the climb. Once we've done that, we will get the results come through. Don't forget, of course, all those results on MyWhoosh.com. You can pick up all of the race results there. The question will be, will it be Michael Vink up at the top? Will this group behind get together? Remember, Vink riding for the Danish Pavlova squad, the team who have dominated that team competition.
So Vink has now over 100 metres gap between himself now and that group, and it is growing, Matt. It's more like 150 in that short period of time that we have been speaking, because he is continuing to push and he's continuing to put a really strong TT effort in here to ride himself clear of that front group.
And the other thing he's doing, of course, for that Pavlova squad is, whilst Fink is up the road, Knudsen, Jones, and Osborne don't need to chase. They can just sit in that group, take a nice, easy run through, not put too much effort in, sit in the draft. It's win-win for the Pavlova team. Vink gets pulled back. Guess what? They've just had a nice, steady ride sitting in the draft. As I say, steady, it's absolutely flat out. But compared to the rest of the riders who are having to chase, they've got definite advantage. Now, Vink on the left-hand side of your screen, going to come around this right-hand bend and onto the climb up. This is the first kicker that we saw in the race. Coming back onto it, you can see the climb up on to the side of the cliffs and back into town once again in Wollongong here on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club Finals. One rider clear, Michael Vink, chasing group, led by the team from the UAE clan team. They are the riders who've been doing a lot of the chasing because they want that team prize. But Vink at the moment with the gap, and at the moment he's heading for a third of a minute. He's over 20 seconds clear. He's continuing to push, and they may not see him again if the chasers are not careful.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't see him again, because 16 seconds that gap now, Matt, and that group behind are just starting to push on. So Michael Vink tapping away between 6 and 6.5 watts per kilo. It's a strong effort, but one that someone of Vink's quality can hold for probably an hour. You know, that is a time trial effort and a time trial power for Vink. But we've got riders behind are just starting to think about this, but they're more looking at each other. Look at it. That watts per kilo back in that chase group is sat at about 4.5, and that gap is only going to grow unless we see some brave riding from this group behind.
And this group are all over the road as well. There's a full width here of that lane here on MyWhoosh. They are not in one long line. Nobody has taken control. But the other thing, if you're a team, so if you are the UAE clan team, hold this gap at 20 to 30 seconds. That means that Vink is out there and he's doing the damage to himself. He's having to work. He's having to put that effort in. Once he starts to then struggle because he's put so much energy in, then is the time to chase. But the other thing to remember, Mr. X100 is very, very good in the UAE clan team at closing the gap down when they need to. Mr. X100, if you watch him, he will put in the effort as the rider he's trying to catch hits the slope when the physical distance between the riders is minimized. So when you've got as much pace as possible going into it and as little pace as possible in the people you're trying to catch. And that is on the dip just as you hit the rise. And that is well worth watching on the way through. And I wouldn't be surprised if, when the riders are talking on Discord, that the shots are being called here by Mr. X100 and the team. So here we go. Our riders continue to push. You can just see really working hard here, trying to open the gap is Michael Vick. He's at 30 seconds here on the chasing group behind, looking very, very strong indeed. And you can see the chasing pack here are working there. Pablo Popovic is the rider leading that chase, just holding it together. In with Mr. X100, we've got Saeed Safrazad in this team mix as well. We've got Phil Graves, we've got Knudsen, we've got Noren in here, Martin's in here, Vujasin in here. This group of 16 still contains plenty of teams who can grab hold of that 50,000 AED top team prize, as well as those individual prizes as well. So don't forget, we're coming out to you on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Make sure you give us a subscribe, click those buttons, make sure that you get notified when we go live. And don't forget, of course, make sure you jump on right on the platform, download the app available on Android, on iOS, as well, of course, as Windows-based systems. Check out the minimum requirements and jump on and come and join us for a ride.
Yeah, so Vink continues to push on. Matt showing us all why he's been signed for the UAE Team Emirates squad, because his performance here on MyWhoosh today is absolutely outstanding. He decided that a group of 17 riders was too many, and he's time trialed his way off the front. We've got Vink in one. We have then got a big gap back now to the chasing group, and this chasing group is around 14 riders with some absolute class in it. Van den Eckhout, Noren van Elst, Jason Osborne, Lionel Vujasin, Pablo Popovic is in here, Martin Martins, Michael Knudsen is in here. You know, these are absolutely a class pack. Safrazad is in here, Mr. X100 is in here, Ollie Jones is in here, the triathlete Phil Graves is in here. This is a really good group, but they are riding together and they are not paying any attention to Vink off the front. So we are here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. It is the November final, and what a final it is turning out to be. Michael Vink has put an effort in as we got coming up to around 20 kilometres, and he has time trialled his way off the front of the lead group. Vink is out front now with 1 minute and 20 seconds separating him from the chase group. So Vink 1 minute 20 up the road from a chasing group of 15, and it is a large chasing group, and they are doing a lot of looking at each other rather than chasing Vink.
Well, the more these riders look at each other, the more likely they are to be in trouble, because that group will not be able to bring back a huge gap to Vink. And the longer they leave it, the more problems they're going to have. Remember, this is the course that you face. It is an absolutely brutal course here today, where the riders know that there is virtually no flat on this course. The flattest section is the run in through that start-finish line of the lap, but it's 2.5 laps finishing on the top of the climb of Mount Pleasant, aka Mount Unpleasant, as named by Emma, and those 17.5% slopes on that final climb will be critical.
Yeah, and Vink will very shortly be coming up to that second category 4 climb at 26.1 kilometres. He is 4k out from that second category 4 climb. And as Matt says, that category 4 climb, it may say on the screen that you've just seen an average of 4.5% gradient over 2.4 kilometres, but we know those gradients kick to over 17% in places. It is a brutal climb. They will go over this category 4 climb, they will come down the other side, and they will continue on the rolling group course lands before they get to that final climb of the day. They go up Mount Pleasant to the finish line at the top on the third time up that climb.
So your race leader on your screens at the moment, the chasing pack currently at, you ready for this? Over 1 minute behind. 1 minute to Michael Vink, the breakaway man supreme. You can imagine him on a long tour. You imagine those long stages of the Tour de France, you know, where they go through the forest of Bordeaux for hours on end. And then there's a climb over something horrible, like, you know, they've ridden all the way over. There's a climb to finish, and he haul himself up. I mean, think he's one of those long breakaway sort of riders. He could just go off the front, and people wouldn't know, and they'd let him go, and they'd go, "What have we done? He's a minute up the road. We can't get him back." He's just one of those absolute classic aggressive riders. It's great to see people prepared to take the offensive, because it does mean that you're putting everybody else on the defensive.
Yeah, and on the defensive at the moment is this chase group of 14 riders. And very shortly, I'm expecting to see some action of these 14. And I think probably when we get to this second category 4 climb at 26.1 kilometres, this group will start to work against each other rather than with each other. Because for second, third, and fourth place, Matt, and that's probably what we're talking about from this chase group, uh, you don't really want 14 riders battling it out to the finish. So on this second category 4 climb, I am nailing my colours to the mast and saying I'm expecting to see some action from this group.
Okay, let's get off the fence. So you'll get splinters sat there that long. How many riders in the chasing pack? Let's assume that Michael Vink stays clear. How many riders in that chasing pack will be together when they hit the start line next time at the end of the second lap as they go into the final half lap?
9.
9. I'm going for 11. There you go. So it's 9 for Emma, 11 for me. That is out of our 14 riders at the moment. If it's 10, we'll just have to share the prize on the way through. Not that there is one, except the bragging rights in the commentary box. So you're with Matt Payne and Emma Martin here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, the team at MyWhoosh HQ, making sure all of our riders all match in with their categories, that they've gone through all of the verification. We've gone through 3 weeks of qualifying. We've had some great racing, and we're now into our finals with our race leader, Michael Vink, clear by nearly 2 minutes on our chasing pack of 14 riders, all of which are category 1 riders. Mr. X100 leading that group around. We're currently at 23.7k of a 45k course. And remember, this finishes with a mountaintop finish on the top of Mount Pleasant, which has slopes in excess of 17% and a descent in the middle of it, just to make things really, really difficult. And that means that it is key for these riders. Remember, of course, being a finals, we've got prize money up for stake. Now, teams in the mix at the moment. We have the Belgian Waffle Squad, who've taken 5 out of 6 wins. They have all 4 of their team in the lead group. We've got 4 riders from the Pavlova squad in the front group or in the race lead, 3 of which are in the chase pack, 1 of which, that's Michael Vink. We've got 2 riders only from the Sticky Bun Club, 1 rider from Italian Gelato. We've got 4 riders, though, from the UAE Clan team and 1 rider from the Yorkshire Pudding Express. So in terms of teams, we've got the Belgian Waffle Squad still in the mix. Danish Pavlova still in the mix. We've also got the UAE Clan team still in the mix for the team win. And this is going to be really, really key as they continue to push onwards from here. And it is all about making sure that they keep the pace up at the front.
Yeah, so as I'm just looking through this group, Matt, of 14 riders in this chase group, it just might be worthwhile mentioning Ross Fawcett is actually in this group. And this is a really strong ride from Ross Fawcett today. So really great to see him progressing after joining the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club probably about 6 to 8 weeks ago. So really learning, really understanding the platform, really getting to grips with the technique and how to ride and race on MyWhoosh. And the benefit of that really starting to come through now.
In fact, just taking a little bit of a look in terms of the finals, his best position to date has been 14th.
Yeah, and back in August, Matt. So really good to make this breakaway and to be riding in this top 14.
And then we've got our second group on the road. Now, the second group on the road here, if we just take a good look at these for a little while, I think this is going to give us a real good indication of who's in there. You've got Hassan Al-Ramethri in group number 2 for category 2 in there. Just taking a little bit of a check. Can't see anybody else in that pack at the moment in a green jersey. And it could well be that this is going to be Hassan Al-Ramethri's day up at the front here. We've got Panita, I think Simmons, Bush, Muller in there as well. And I think Bjorkland's still in that mix. But look at that. There we go. Better shot looking back here. Hassan Al-Ramethri. Today could well be a day for him in category number 2. That is going to be a nice big prize day for Hassan. as he goes in through the finish, because it could well be that we are going to see Hassan Al Ramesri. He's taken wins before. He's taken a lot of wins before. In fact, if we go back to May, he's had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins so far and a second place. Bear in mind, we're only checking out basically podium positions. That's not bad.
No, it isn't, is it? And that strong start of his today has really
Yep.
paid off because he's got in with a group of riders and he's stayed in with that group of Category 1 riders and is still pushing on strongly. But I wouldn't imagine, Matt, that the chase group in Category 2 are that far behind him because there are some really strong riders. And as we've seen Al Ramethri before, where he's not had such a strong start, he's pushed on and caught them. And he's been the master of catching the Category 2 front end from having a poor start. So getting a good start today, absolutely fabulous to see.
It is great to see, isn't it? I tell you something, performance of the day. I mean, Michael Vink has got to be on an absolute high as he pushes on the race lead. We're at 27.2K. And that means that Michael Vink is in that little dip and rise again over the summit. The chasers behind, well, they're still on those big, steep, nasty slopes. So you can just see Vink has dropped down. He's got a little bit of a rise to go up just under the cable cars, but look at the pace difference. We've gone from 75K to 20 kph. Do you know what? They're still going faster than I was yesterday out on the bike.
Yeah, but you know what? Vink is actually playing a really strong game. He has pretty much decided, regardless of the terrain, I am sitting at my time trial effort. I am going to time trial up, I'm going to time trial down, and I'm going to time trial on the flat. Regardless of what the terrain is doing, Vink is riding his own pace and he's measuring that effort perfectly. Behind him, it's a little bit more variable and a little bit more responsive to the terrain. As we're in with Mr. X100 in that group of 14 riders, Vanden Eckhout, Mr. X100, Martins, Graves, Jones, Fawcett, Noren, Mel, Vujasin, Popovic, Safrazad, really class riders in that group, but they're now over 600 meters behind Vink. As we start to see attacks coming on that climb, I thought we might, as they look at that, we're starting to see people pushing on as they've gone over the top of that first climb. They're now on the descent and stretching their legs and actually stretching this group out. I can't wait to see what's about to happen behind.
Well, it's going to be carnage, isn't it? So we've got our two groups down. Phil Gray's right-hand side of your screen leading that pack of initial riders. It looks like that push over the top has not caught anyone napping. Everybody's come back together again. I don't think we've lost anybody. But remember, Michael Vink, this is a Twin Peak summit. Not some dodgy 2000s TV show. It's a Twin Peaks summit. So basically, you go over the top of the first peak, you drop down, you go on to a second minor peak. It goes about 50% as high as you've just descended, but the slopes are still steep and they are still aggressively nasty. They're still 17%. Basically, you drop off the edge, you go back up and over, and it is going to cause some serious damage. Now, we are watching these riders. Who is going to take this? Well, Vink looks like he has got victory sewn up. Will he be leading his team home for victory? Or behind, will the UAE clan team and all the rest of the teams in the mix be able to mix this up and take away the win?
Yeah, so I'm just looking towards the back of this group at the moment, and we are starting to see riders just stretched off the back of that group. And that's not a good thing to see, but a large section of that chase group on the road pushing on at the front. Mr. X100 is in there, Martins is in there, Norin is in there. X100 comes to the front with Safrazad. I think the UAE clan team is starting to think about what they're going to do here as we see Vink approaching the banner there, which is the top of this climb. The next time up the climb, he will take the finish line in that position, in that place. I say in that position, if he can stay away. But he's currently 1 minute 30 seconds ahead of this chase group. I don't think he's going to get caught, but these riders might have something else to say about that.
I think they will. I can't imagine for 1 second that they are going to leave a rider out there without trying to put up some kind of resistance to them.
And we're starting to see that resistance coming in the form of X100 with Jones and Popovich. Graves is there as well as they're pushing on and slightly stretching this group. In fact, Popovich, Jones, and Mr. X100, 2 seconds now back to the rest of this group as they're coming up and they start to see the top of that category 4 climb.
This is going to be really interesting. The rundown of the other side here. Now, Ollie Jones right in this mix, and Jones really has to work here. Jones, normally a rider who we see in the very last climb of the day, having to stay in the pack because this racing is so aggressive. It really has sorted out those riders, and we have such a limited race field in terms of numbers, and yet it is overflowing with quality, with power, with different qualities of a rider, with different strengths. And interesting to see Mr. X100 and Saeed Safrazad straight over the top there, going on to the front to keep that wound up into this descent. And you can just see behind everyone having to answer that as they go down this descent. So Vink at the moment, about a minute and a half clear. Here comes that chasing pack, carrying that momentum up round this right-hand turn and into our long descent here.
Yeah, so I think this group, Matt, have completely proved us wrong on this climb. I think we only lost one rider actually off of this group early on in the climb, and currently the rest of them are all still together.
Well, we will soon see whether it is going to be Emma with her 9 out of 14 left, or whether it be myself with 11 out of 14 left. In fact, it could well be 13, in which case I'm going to claim it.
It is indeed. It is indeed 13 riders, and
There
Ross
is still
Fawcett.
time, though.
In fact, Ross Fawcett is our rider who's just been stretched off that. So Ross Fawcett goes off the back. He's now 28 seconds back off of this group. We are now down to a chasing group of 13 riders.
Well, here we go. The riders continuing to push their way around. They know that they're now in this run down towards the line, and then they're going to have half a lap left to go finish up on to the top of the climb. In fact, it's a bit more than half. It's about 0.85 of a lap when I did the maths of a lap to get to the end. I know me doing maths is quite a scary thing, so take that with a pinch of salt when it comes to the numbers. Emma is indeed known as the professor for a reason. So here we are on the finals of the Sunday Race Club here in November. The men's race with Michael Vinker leading out, the man who has gone and got himself. He's been awarded a new contract at the top flight of professional sport with the UAE team. That UAE team are really reinforcing the riders in there, and you can just see we have two continental pros at the front in Vic and Osborne, both riders who are absolutely flying when it comes to racing, not just on esports, but also on the road in the professional highest levels.
Yeah, and we're seeing a chasing group here led by Osborne. Mr. X100 comes up in support because whilst this gradient is going downhill, these powers are not. 6.8%. 6.8 watts per kilo, should I say, currently coming out of Mr. X100. Osborne chasing, Safrazad at 5. This group really keeping the pace and the power down and starting to test each other. They don't have much longer to go, you know. We've got 31 kilometres raced of a 45-kilometre race, so 14k still to race for these, with one more category 4 climb that will take us to the finish line at the top.
And we are now at 47 minutes of racing. Wollongong is one of the hardest courses we use. It's not necessarily a finish on the top of the Jebel Hafid, where you've got a massive 11, 12k climb at the end. It's not like we've seen in Colombia, where you've got basically climb, level, and another climb with next to no descent whatsoever in there. This is just an unrelenting course. At the moment, these riders are pushing to try and close down Michael Vink, but with over 3/4 of an hour of racing gone, Michael Vink not showing any signs of slowing down.
No, he's not. You know, he's 1k now ahead of this chasing group, and he has not let up on his tactic of sitting around 6 watts per kilo regardless of the terrain. He continues to push that time trial effort, he continues to manage that time trial effort, and it is working so well for him because the riders behind are responding to the terrain not trying to chase him.
And you got to remember, he put the attack in going round that spiral road that leads you in to the end of lap one. So he's done now one lap. Vink wound it up here. This is where he went clear. He went round that spiral. He accelerated. He went clear. So he's now done one full lap on his own. And the gap has only grown. Realistically, it's going to be so hard to touch him now with half a lap left. Now, leaders gone up the road. Chasers on the left-hand side of your screen. Right-hand side of your screen, you can see Group 2 and the chaser behind Group 2. It's our leading Category 2 rider chasing the second group of Category 1 riders, if all that makes sense. It's Hassan El-Romethri, and Hassan showing just why we always make sure we keep an eye on him in races, even when he's not on serious form, when he's not in for the win. He's always pushing from the back, and that's part of watching the racing and making sure that we know these riders, because it's not just about what these riders do on their good days, it's about what they do on the bad days and where they are in terms of the big scheme of things. And you can get some real key indicators by watching the riders, and it's one of the things the riders need to do as well. Now, just seeing a little bit of a gap open up on this straight here. It's traditionally, having raced and have ridden this course, it's where you've got to take a drink, where you've got to take a breath. This is a key place to do it as you come around the spiral and onto the level. As you come around this turn, it's a great turn, this, because you put a bit of a kick in, and then you've got this long level stretch where you've got a chance to recover.
And, you know, El-Romethri, Matt, we've just dropped back in with that Category 2 leader. El-Romethri is turning himself inside out today to stay with that group. And it is working really, really well for him. But I don't think he's struggling to stay there, but it's an absolutely class ride. As we drop back in with Mr. X100 here on the front of this group, he's now pushing back up and closing that group. So we're still one rider out front, 13 riders in the chase group.
So looking at the right-hand side of your screen, as Mr. X100 is on the left, right-hand side of your screen, you can see the Category 2 chasers as the riders just work their way back in and through. But look at this. You can see Mr. X100 has used this part of the course. He's just taken on board some fuel, some drink, maybe put a gel down, looking to make sure that he's fueled up for this. And it is really, really key here for our riders to make sure that they know exactly what they're doing, where they're going to push.
Yeah, and on the right-hand side of your screen, this is the Chase Category 2 group. We've got Spratt in here, we've got Smithson in here, we've got Gakes in here, Kranich is in here, you know, Ilpino is in here. These are the riders we would expect to see in this chase group. Angarita is in here as well. This is a really, really strong chase group just down the road from Hassan El-Romethri. El-Romethri is the rider this group is chasing.
So here we go, the chasers on the that big group of riders on the right-hand side. They're in the mixing category number 2, chasing our leader. That is Hassan El-Romethri. The left-hand side of the screen, the chasers trying to chase down the leader in category 1, which is Michael Vink. Vink already around the right-hand turn and onto the climb, and making his way up towards the top. So the riders make their way through, and the riders are looking good as go around that turn. But look at Vink. He's already over the top of that section. He's coming down past the lighthouse on the coastline, and so far out of sight. They need a telescope from the top of that lighthouse to see the chasers behind, I think.
Yeah, and he's in the last 10 kilometres of this race now. Vink is continuing to time trial. It is 6 watts per kilo. It is working really, really well for him. 1 minute 20 plus now back to the chase group. And just over, in fact, it's now 1.2 kilometres back to that chase group. Vink just continues to edge forward and edge an even longer lead.
But we have a mountaintop finish. We have somewhere now. Okay, Vink has got some serious pace. He's time trialed his way off, but other riders will excel on the climb. They will have been struggling with the short, punchy stuff, but this climbing section of the Category 4 climb is the longest, steepest climb. If you are a great climber and have managed to stay in with that leading group on the way through by drafting, by not putting your nose out in the wind, for example, Ollie Jones, We've not seen him on the front. We've not seen him do any work, but we know that Jones goes uphill like an absolute mountain goat. He will fly up there. He could pull back a lot of time on that climb. Vink will need to not go into the red and sit on his limit. Interestingly, if you look at Michael Vink's cadence, his pedal cadence, on some of these kickers, he is dropping down to 61 revs per minute, and that is a low rev range. We would expect to see most pros rolling somewhere between about 85 and about 110 most of the time, not including an effort or a recovery period, but that is the kind of rev range. Most of them will roll somewhere between about 88 and 82. It's a very narrow band, virtually all the pros, once you've done that many miles. You look at Jason Osborne here, ticking along, 85, 86, 89, just rolling in and around, just moving through that pack, but that cadence is high. And that generally is an indicator that the riders are going well. Vink isn't.
Well,
Vink is not doing that.
I'll give you an indicator that Jason Osborne is going well because his heart rate is currently 157. Osborne is capable of 200 beats per minute. That is a really steady pace for Osborne at the moment. Osborne is also capable of over 10 watts per kilo for a minute.
And remember, he's a teammate of Vink, so he's been sat in, he's been resting, he's not expended any energy for over a lap in terms of comparative to the other riders in that group. He's not had to. And realistically, for me, they can let all of those riders in that Pavlova squad are able to let Vink hit that climb with as much lead as possible. But the moment they hit that climb, I would be looking to rip that race apart and go clear and see if they can take away the team prize once again. Remember, 5 out of 6 finals since May have gone to the Pavlovas, with second place the only time they haven't taken the win.
Yeah, so Jason Osborne just guarding the front of that group at the moment with Pablo Popovic. Riders just rolling around. In fact, some riders taking some really nice recovery in that group, around 2.5 watts per kilo. I've spotted from some riders. So really bringing heart rates down. Osborne's heart rate now 150, so dropping fast with some recovery going on here because, as we've said, there's 13 riders in this group, and only the top 5 today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the prize money for the individual prize. The team prize is something a little bit different, but they will still want to make that top 5.
And remember, of course, that team prize, it is your top 3 riders to count the cumulative time added up of your top 3 finishing riders, and that gives you your cumulative time, and the person with the team with the least time will take away the top spot. The second fastest team of 3, then second, and so on, all the way through those top 5 teams. 5 teams in category 1, 2, 3, and 4. That basically means that you have got 15 riders in each category. That is 60 riders alone taking prize money in that team competition across the racing here today. That's a huge volume of riders in a race field. That means over 50% of the race field are going to take away a prize.
Yeah, so we're in with our Methri on the right-hand side of your screen at the moment. It's looking like he has indeed been dropped from that small group of Category 1 riders. He's a little bit in no man's land at the moment, but he's got Mitch Ferry behind, so strong riders behind. And this is the point in the race where our Methri needs to think, do I time trial my way on my own to the finish? Or do I sit up and do I wait and do I take a little bit of help and a little bit of recovery from the 2 Category 1 riders who are behind him?
Well, it's Mitch Ferry, who we know can climb well. And of course, the new rider, and that's Henrik in there as well. So I personally, I think on this course, given the lack of potential places to take advantage of the draft, I would be making my own way there. I'd be soloing in, I think, at that stage. Don't give away any time at this stage. We are at 39.6, nearly 40 kilometers covered for Michael Vink here of our 45k course, which means he's coming into those essential single digits, the 5K marker is a key marker in all riders' heads when you're coming into the finish. You've 3.5 miles. You know that that is a distance that you can pull it out. When it gets to about 3K, you know that you can give it almost everything. And with 1K to go, basically, it's do or die when you get to
Yeah.
that stage, particularly on this course.
Yeah, and Fink has not backed off of that tactic, and that tactic has worked really well for him. And he is going to come onto that final category 4 climb at 42.6 kilometers. So it is not far now to that final climb for Vink.
So Vink at the moment, heart rate 165, pedal revs, the pedal cadence 63, kicking out over 400 watts, consistently sitting at big numbers behind. Well, they are still playing across the road. I think they are basically ignoring the fact that Vink has gone. They are concentrating on salvaging what they can from that group. This is not about taking the win for all of the rest of the riders, except for Vink and his teammates, because the teammates are going to be playing a team game. They're going to be sitting there thinking about their position. They want Vink to win, therefore they're not going to chase. That means you have 3 passengers in a group of 14 riders. 13 riders. They're going to make a big difference. And don't forget, of course, nearest to that number was me with 11. Oh, got to gloat in my odd victory when it happens, you know.
Yeah, you're going to gloat all day, aren't you? As we see Mr. X100 and Ollie Jones starting to poke his head out of the front of that group for the first time. Mr. X100 just pushing a little bit more on those pedals, but just testing the ground, not putting in an attack. As we go in with our Methri, and you can see that group that he was working with just up the road ahead. Our Methri there now in a bit of no man's land, because we've got a group 2 riders have gone past him, in fact, and he's going to need to work to push onto the back of Ferry, and he's going to need to work to stay there but to be honest, Il Pino, the next category 2 rider, is over 2 minutes behind. So our Methri with 7K to go has a 2-minute lead in the category 2 race. On the left hand side of your screen, that is actually looking at that is the chase for 4th and 5th in the category 2 race, because Francis Il Pino, currently in 2nd place on the road, is on his own behind our Methri.
Indeed, and just taking a little bit of a look back down through this group, we're in with Mr. X100. We are over 40k covered. We have 5k to go. Expect to see the UAE clan team start to drill it on the front now to close that gap down as much as possible coming in to the climb. They're going to be trying to be thwarted by the rest of the riders from taking that team win. It's going to be about who can do what on the climb. So here we go. Final 5K to go in 4.5K for the UAE clan team and the chasers in group 2. Michael Vink, your solo leader, right hand side of the screen now with just over 2.5K to the finish here. So you can see the chasers are trying to close that gap down to minimize it as they hit the base of the climb. There's a lot of work being done by the UAE clan team. It looks to me like the Pavlova squad and the Waffle squad, though, are right up in the mix, patrolling the front. Nobody wanting to give away too much. And I think what we're seeing, in fact, is that the UAE clan team stir it up, then sit back and let everybody then do a bit of chasing, then stir it up again. And I think that is making things really interesting, because Mr. X100 now 6 watts per kilo as he comes off the front of this group. That is not an attack, that is just lifting the pace.
Yeah, and Mr. X100 likes to lift the pace on the downhills, because I think a lot of people don't expect it, and expect the unexpected, because that's what's going to have the impact in this race today.
It is indeed. So, Vink now, right hand side of your screen, rolling on here, 42.9k. Remember, he is on the climb at the moment. It's 3.2%. He has got the kicker coming. It looks like he's on the flat and it climbs, starts in front. It's not. It's already Some people would call it a false flat. I call it a horrible big hill. Already at 7% coming in to that climb. You get a better idea when you look back at the descent behind him. Here come the chasers. They're being led by Mr. X100, Saeed Safrazad on his wheel here. Ollie Jones, Vidal Mayer, Jason Osborne, Lionel Vajassin, all in and around as they come up. Vink with the gap, though. It's nearly 2 minutes. How much will he lose on this climb? Don't forget, of course, all the results afterwards will be up on the MyWhoosh.com website. And we're now starting to lap riders as well. That is how fast our Category 1 race leaders are moving.
And what I love, Matt, about Michael Vink at the moment is the avatar is looking over his shoulder. He's looking for the chase group behind him and he cannot see them. And the look of surprise I would expect to see, or satisfaction I would expect to see on Vink's avatar's face, I would love it if the expressions changed because, got you guys. You're not going to catch me now. Is
I'll
probably
tell you something,
what you
that's a
might be
great
thinking.
one for the programmers to try and dial in there. Dial in expressions based on race performances and expectations. That would be very nice to see.
So Vink has 1 minute 20 at the bottom of this climb, Matt. Let's see what he's got at the top when the finish line comes.
So don't forget, make sure you jump in. This is our finals. We are on our run in here. Michael Vink on this descent section before the final kicker up, all part of our climb. He is currently at 43.9k. Remember, this is a 45-kilometer race. First over the line with a big prize win individually. If they can lead home their team, then an even bigger win still. But the team race is going to be contested in Category 1 from this bunch. Remember, of course, racing throughout all 4 categories. Your race leader, right-hand side of the screen. He's got 900, I'll repeat that, 900 meters to go as he pushes on. His 1k clear of the chasing group, which is fracturing with the riders are starting to push their way up this climb. The chase is on, but it's too late to pull back. I think the question will be who's going to take 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th places, and just as importantly, who's going to take away that team prize.
Yeah, so the push is coming on the left-hand side of your screen as Vink's got 800 meters left on the right-hand side of your screen. We're really seeing the differences here, but that group might get stretched, but it keeps coming back together again as Vink continues to push on with this tactic at 6 watts per kilo, this time trial effort. The gradient is up 12% at the moment, and it's not going to be long until Vink sees the finish line.
So Vink on this climb. Going to be a little while before he hits the finishing line. That's just due to the sheer steepness and severity, the brutality of this final climb to the line as the chase is being led by Saeed Safrazad. They are group number 2 on the road. We're back in with our leader. He's now at less than 600 meters to go, just over half a K. But this is the group fighting it out for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th places. So the prize money in Category 1 for the individuals as well as that team prize. And our team winners will come from this. Just to remind you, the Belgian Waffle Squad, the Danish Pavlova Squad, as well as the UAE Clan Team, all in the mix. All in with a shout of taking away the team prize. And that includes, of course, Michael Vink, who's on your screen.
Yeah, so Vink is pushing on. He's got 400 meters to go, and you can see that push of that road ahead of him. Jones and Van Elst and Safrazad and Graves are pushing on behind, and the time gap's coming down, but it's not going to catch because Vink's got 300 meters to go as the group behind continue to play.
So it is Vink on his way into line, right-hand side of your screen. Left-hand side, this is the chase coming. Stefan Van Elst is on his way for the Belgian Waffle Squad. And it looks like Mr. X100 has been distanced. He's done the work for his teammates. The question will be, can he bring it in? Can he bring the time in?
And Vink sees the finish line, and the finish line is ahead as Vink's got less than 200 meters to go. It has been a class effort and an absolute show of domination from Vink today on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club November final as Vink crosses the finish line in 1st place.
So great riding by Michael Vink there to take a victory in our November finals. Who's going to be following him into the line? They have looked at each other. They've been working hard. The UAE Clan Team have been set up by Mr. X100. Who's going to take it? Momentum Master Pablo Popovic is going to try and pick some momentum up as it levels out slightly. It goes to 6% from 17%. It's still a nasty climb behind him. Osborne is responding here. He's got Safrazad glued to his wheel. Knudsen, Van Elston Jones. This is for the team prize. Remember, this could come down to fractions of a second. We've seen these prizes be awarded by less than a second because it's been such close racing. It's going to be about who can come across the line. This is looking good at the moment for the UAE clan team, but it's dependent on their third counter. Here they go.
Yep, and the line comes into sight as Popovic kicks at 12 watts per kilo, Safrazad at 14. Safrazad is going and Popovic is coming, but Safrazad is pushing and Popovic is gonna roll him. Popovic rolls Safrazad on the line with Osborne looking like he's gonna come in behind. So
wow.
Vink takes first place with an outstanding effort off of that course. Safrazad in 2, Popovic in 3, Osborne, Knudsen and Van Elst.
Great riding there, and you can just see awarded on that screen. The Danish Pavlova squad have taken the victory in the team competition. I think it's going to be the Waffle squad are going to take what is going to be a second place. And I think UAE clan team taking third place. Remember, there are 5 prizes in this. We're going to get that confirmed. Don't forget, you can catch up with all of those results. So here we go. From the top. In 1, Michael Vink. In 2, Saeed Safrazad. In 3, Pablo Popovic. In 4, Jason Osborne. In 5, Michael Knudsen. In 6, Stefan Van Erst. In 7, Martin Martins. In 8, Ollie Jones. In 9, Bart van den Eekhout. In 10th place, Johan Noren. In 11th, Vidal Mer. And in 12th place, Lionel Vujassin.
Yeah, and some outstanding riding today on the November final as we drop back in with Hassan Al Ramethri. Al Ramethri are leading Category 1 rider. I'm looking back here. It's looking like Il Pino is around 2 minutes back with Maglio in 3rd. This race has been outstanding. Al Ramethri having an amazing start today and working so hard to stay in those leading groups for as long as possible.
Indeed, and we have seen some fantastic racing, not just in Category 1, in 2, 3 and 4. Don't forget, of course, make sure that you catch up with all of the results on the MyWhoosh website. That is www.mywhoosh.com. Click on results. There are 3 types of results. There's live, which is as we happen now. There will be the unverified or the unofficial results. They are the second stage. That's when the racing finishes, but the riders have not been verified. And then there will be the official results. After that, top 5 riders in each category individually and top 5 teams taking away prizes. And because that verification process is a very thorough one, because it involves not just AI, which is super quick, also humans are giving it a real reality check as well, it may take a little bit of time to get those full official results. And of course, we've got to wait for responses from our riders as well.
Yeah, you can't forget the submission of those dual recordings, Matt. Absolutely essential in verifying our riders' performances today. There's a lot of prize money at stake, and it's absolutely essential that we get it right.
Yep, 50,000 AED for the team win in Category 1, plus, of course, the prizes for our individuals, 10,000 AED in Category 1 for the arrows on there. So our riders on the way in to awards finish. We've seen a fantastic battle in Category 1. You're now watching the battle in Category 2. Our chasers here are trying to close down Francis Il Pino. Pino is in 2nd place. They are getting closer. Spratt, Krasnich, Maglio are all looking like they're closing down on Il Pino. Pino is just in front. This is going to get really, really tight indeed. They're going to come together. They are going to be fighting out for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th places, but Hassan Al Ramethri. Now, this is a rider who has improved. Remember, he normally starts slow. He gets quicker and quicker. He has taken wins in qualifiers and finals before. I think he's got his timing just right today. He's on that climb. You can see the chasers on the descent here, and I think they are all back together again. I think I can see our 4 riders together as Il Pino drops through. So that is the battle. Now, in between, we do have some Category 1 riders finishing, but we're going to focus on the race win. And the riders are chasing in. It's 30 seconds. The difference between Alramethri and the chasers behind Sprat, Maglio, Krasnich, and Ilpino.
Yeah, and what a race this is becoming, because Aura Methri has worked so hard to hang on all race. He's been dropped from those groups, he's pushed back on, and that has got to take a toll on you racing, Matt. And this chase group now are really looking at what they can do. They've come together, they've caught Ilpino. So Hassan Aura Methri is out with 600 metres to go. But Sprat, Maglio, Cranch are all chasing with Ilpino behind.
The question is, have they got enough left to close down Alramethri? Alramethri is going to hit this slight leveling off, then it will kick again. And remember, on the top of a climb, you see it time and time again. Riders can lose not just seconds, not just tens of seconds, but they can lose minutes. If you go in the red zone, you will blow. And if you blow, if you get cramped, you get lactic acid. I mean, we see it in riders like Strada Bianchi, where riders literally getting cramp at the top on the final corner, losing 5-10 places because they cannot physically move. The same happens if you're giving it everything. I've always said, if you can get off the bike at the end of the race, you've not raced hard enough. You should be coming over that line with nothing left in here. Hassan Al-Ramethri is trying to make this. He's got to keep pushing. That heart rate has got up to 174. Come on, mate.
Yeah, he's got less than 300 metres to go, Matt, and he's going to see that finish banner anytime soon. And 200 metres for Aura Methri. This has got to be his day on this November final on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. So there it is, that yellow banner in the distance. Aura Methri will have just spotted it. He'll have seen that coming. He knows he's going to make it. He knows there's still 300 metres between him and the chase group, and whilst that's less than there was at the bottom of the climb, it's not going to make the difference. And Aura Methri, I'm going to call it now, is going to take first place in this category 2 race. So Aura Methri, the final 100 metres of an outstanding technical race for Aura Methri. The tactics were superb, the technique was superb, and Aura Methri comes across the line to take first place in our category 2 race today.
And great racing by Hassan. I mean, he gave it absolutely everything there. He comes in a 23rd place overall, and our first category 1 rider. The battle behind is on that final slope. Now, this is for the top 5 positions here. So this shows you just how close it is. They're actually going to round out our top 25 riders. They're going to be rounded out by 5 riders at the top of category 2. I can even say the words. Come on, this is the final kick now. They've got to keep this rolling in. It's going to come down to what they can do. A quick resume, of course, here of our top riders in category 1. The win going to Michael Vink, the rider who's doing professional for the UAE team. So if you want to see who takes those final 4 places, you're going to need to make sure that you get those results in. And look on the website from myself, Matt Payne. It's been an amazing day. It's been a pleasure putting words to the action. Been joined here by Emma. Emma, great racing as always.
Oh, it's been absolutely fantastic racing. And if you want all the updates between now and next week when we start with the December qualifiers, you can follow MyWhoosh on Facebook, on Twitter, or on social media, either Instagram, or you can find myself or Matt. Well, you can find me at Biking Emma on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. And where can we find you, Matt?
It is at Matt Fixer Payne. Don't forget, of course, to give MyWhoosh a follow. Jump on, subscribe to the channel. We will see you again shortly for the women's final, the last race of November. So from Emma and me, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.